Welcome to this channel. You are in Fyodor new house. I wish you learning and extraordinary experiences. Article recorded on March 25, 2023 by Sybil Mandler for educational sharing at Fyodor Kozanova. Like and share. For interested in the author, visit the official shos.com website. Books I have loved. Talks given from 1980 to Miscellaneous. Chapter 1. 1984 in Loud's House, Rajneeshpuram, Oregon, USA. The guest. The host. The white chrysanthemum. These are the moments, the white roses, when no one should speak. Neither the guest, nor the host. Only silence. But silence speaks in its own way, sings its own song of joy, of peace, of beauty and blessings. Otherwise there would not have been a Tao Te Ching, nor would there have been a Sermon on the Mount. I consider these to be the real poetries, although they are not compiled in any poetic way. They are outsiders. They are kept out. This is true in a way. They don't belong to the norms, to the standard. They don't belong to any measurements. They are beyond all of them. Hence they are brushed over. A few pieces in Fyodor Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov are pure poetry, and so are even a few pieces from that madman Friedrich Nietzsche's book, Thus Spake Zarathustra. Even if Nietzsche had not written anything else but Thus Spake Zarathustra, he would have served humanity immensely, profoundly. More cannot be expected from any man, because Zarathustra had been almost forgotten. It was Nietzsche who brought him back, who again gave him birth, a resurrection. Thus Spake Zarathustra is going to be the Bible of the future. It is said that Zarathustra laughed when he was born. It is very difficult to imagine a newborn baby laughing. Okay, smiling, but laughing. One wonders at what, because laughter needs a context. 2. Chapter 1. At what joke was the baby Zarathustra laughing? The cosmic joke. At the joke this whole existence is. Yes. Write in your notes the cosmic joke and underline it. That's good. I can even hear you underline it. That's beautiful. Do you see how good my hearing is? When I want to, I can hear even the sound of drawing a sketch, a leaf. When I want to see, I can't see in darkness, utter darkness. But when I don't want to hear, I pretend not to hear, just to give you the good feeling that everything is going good. Zarathustra at his birth, laughing. And that was only the beginning. He laughed throughout his whole life. His whole life was of laughter. Even so, people have forgotten him. The English have even changed his name. They called him Zoroaster. What a monstrosity! Zarathustra has the softness of a rose petal, and Zoroaster sounds like a huge mechanical disaster. Zarathustra must be laughing at his name being changed to Zoroaster. But before Friedrich Nietzsche, he was forgotten. He was bound to be. The Mohammedans had forced all the followers of Zarathustra to become Mohammedans. Only a few, very few, escaped to India, or else. India was the place where everybody could enter without a passport or visa, without any trouble. Only very few followers of Zarathustra escaped the Mohammedan murderers. There are not many in India. Only 100,000. Now, who bothers about a religion of only 100,000, who not only almost all live just in India, but in and around only one city, Bombay? Even they themselves have forgotten Zarathustra. They have compromised with the Hindus with whom they have to live. They escaped a well and fell into the ditch, a deeper ditch. On one side a well, the other side the ditch. And through the middle goes the way. Buddha calls it the middle way. Exactly in the middle, just like a tightrope walker. Nietzsche's great service was in bringing Zarathustra back to the modern world. His great disservice was Adolf Hitler. He did both. Of course he was not responsible for Adolf Hitler. It was Hitler's own misunderstanding of Nietzsche's idea of Superman. What could Nietzsche do about it? If you misunderstand me, what can I do about it? Misunderstanding is always your freedom. Adolf Hitler was a juvenile mediocrity, a retarded child, really ugly. Just remember his face, that small mustache, those fearful eyes staring as though trying to make you fearful, and the tense forehead. He was so tense that he could not even be friendly to anybody throughout his whole life. To be a friend one needs to be a little relaxed. Hitler could not love, although he tried in his dictatorial way. He tried, as many husbands do unfortunately, to dictate, to order, to maneuver and manipulate women, but he was unable to love. Love needs intelligence. He would not even allow his own girlfriend to be alone with him in his room at night. Such fear. He was afraid that while he was asleep, one never knows, the girlfriend may be a girlfolk, she may be an agent working for the enemy. He slept alone all his life. How could a man like Adolf Hitler love? He had no sympathy, no feeling. He had no heart, no feminine side to him. He had killed the woman within himself, so how could he love the woman outside? To love the outer woman you have to nourish the woman within, because only that which is within is expressed in your actions. I have heard that Hitler shot one of his girlfriends for just a small reason. He killed her because he had said she should not go to visit her mother, but when he was out she went. Although she was books I have loved 30 show. Chapter 1. Back before Hitler returned, he came to know through the guards that she had gone out. That was enough to finish the love. Not only the love, but the woman too. He shot her saying, "If you disobey me, then you are my enemy." That was his logic. Who obeys you is your friend. Who disobeys you is your enemy. Who is for you, and who is not for you is against you. It is not necessarily so. Somebody may be just neutral, neither being for you nor against you. He may not be your friend, but that does not necessarily mean that he is an enemy. I love the book Thus Spake Zarathustra. I love very few books. I can't count them on my fingers. Thus Spake Zarathustra will be the first on my list. The Brothers Karamazov is the second. Third is the Book of Mir the 80. Fourth is Jonathan Livingston Seagull. The fifth book is Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. The sixth is the Parables of Chuang Tzu. He was the most lovable man, and this is the most lovable book. Seventh is the Sermon on the Mount. Only the Sermon on the Mount, not the whole Bible. The whole Bible is just bullshit except the Sermon on the Mount. Eighth. Is my numbering right? That's good. Then you can feel that I am still in my insanity. The eighth, Bhagavad-gita, the Divine Song of Krishna. By the way, Christ is only a mispronunciation of Krishna, just as Zoroaster is of Zarathustra. Krishna means the highest state of consciousness, and the Song of Krishna, the Bhagavad-gita, reaches to the ultimate heights of being. Ninth, Gita-Njali. It means an offering of songs. It is the work of Rabindranath Tagore, for which he got the Nobel Prize. And the 10th is the Songs of Milarepa, the 1000 Songs of Milarepa. That's how it is called in Tibetan. No one spoke. The host, the guest, nor the white chrysanthemum. Books I have loved for Osho. Chapter 1. Ah-H. So beautiful. The white chrysanthemum. Ah-H. So beautiful. Words are so poor. I cannot describe what is being brought to me. The white chrysanthemum. No one spoke. The host, the guest, the white chrysanthemum. Good. Because of this beauty, my ears are incapable of even hearing the noise. My eyes are filling with tears. Tears are the only words the unknown can speak, the language of silence. Books I have loved. 5. Osho. Chapter 2. 1984 in Lao Tzu House, Rajneeshpuram, Oregon, USA. I apologize because this morning I did not mention a few books that I should have mentioned. I was so overwhelmed by Zarathustra, Murdad, Chuang Tzu, Lao Tzu, Jesus and Krishna that I forgot a few of the books which are even far more significant. I could not believe how I could forget Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. It is still torturing me. I want to unburden. That's why I say I am sorry, but not to anybody in particular. How could I forget the book which is the ultimate, the book of the Sufis? Perhaps I forgot because it contains nothing, just empty pages. For 1200 years Sufis have been carrying the book with tremendous respect, opening its pages and studying it. One wonders what they study. When you face an empty page for a long time, you are bound to rebounce upon yourself. That is the real study, the work. How could I forget the book? Now who will forgive me? The book should have been the first to have been mentioned, not the last. It cannot be transcended. How can you create a better book than one which contains nothing, and the message of nothingness? Nothingness should be written in your notes. Diviji has no thingness, otherwise nothingness has a negative meaning, the meaning of emptiness, and that's not it. The meaning is fullness. Emptiness in the East has a totally different context. Shuny 88. I called one of my sannyasins Shunyon, but the fool goes on calling himself Dr. Eichling. Now, can stupidity be greater? Dr. Eichling, what an ugly name. and he has shaved off his beard just to be Dr. Eichling, because with a beard he was looking a little beautiful. In the East shunyata, emptiness does not mean emptiness as in the English language. It is fullness, over fullness, so full that nothing is needed anymore. That is the message of the book. Please include it in the list. 6. Chapter 2. First, the Book of the Sufis. Second, the Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I could easily drop the Prophet for the simple reason that it is only an echo of Friedrich Nietzsche's "Thus Spake Zarathustra." In our world nobody speaks the truth. We are such liars, so formal, so full of etiquette. The Prophet is only beautiful because it echoes Zarathustra. Third, the Book of THUS. Lao Tzu I mentioned, Chuang Tzu I mentioned, Li Tzu I forgot, and he is the very culmination of both Lao Tzu and Chuang Tzu. Li Tzu is the third generation. Lao Tzu was the master, Chuang Tzu was the disciple. Li Tzu was the disciple of a disciple. Perhaps that is why I forgot him. But his book is immensely beautiful and has to be included in the list. Fourth, and this is really amazing, I did not mention Plato's Dialogues of Socrates. Perhaps I forgot because of Plato. Plato is not worth mentioning. He was just a philosopher, but his Dialogues of Socrates and his death is impossible to overpraise and should be included. Fifth, I also forgot the notes of the disciples of Bodhidharma. When I talk of Gautam Buddha I always forget Bodhidharma, perhaps because I feel as if I have included him in his master, Buddha. But no, that is not right. Bodhidharma stands on his own. He was a great disciple, so great that even the master could be jealous of him. He himself did not write a word, but a few of his disciples, unknown because they did not mention their names, wrote some notes of Bodhidharma's words. These notes, though few, are as precious as the Koh-i-Noor. The word Koh-i-Noor, do you know, means the light of the world. Noor means the light, Koh means of the world. If I had to describe anything as Koh-i-Noor, yes, I would indicate towards those few notes by the anonymous disciples of Bodhidharma. 6th, I also forgot the Rubaiyat. Tears are coming to my eyes. I can apologize for forgetting everything else but not the Rubaiyat. Omar Khayyam. I can only cry, weep. I can only apologize with my tears. Words won't do. The Rubaiyat is one of the most misunderstood and also one of the most widely read books in the world. It is understood in its translation. It is misunderstood in its spirit. The translator could not bring the spirit to it. Rubaiyat is symbolic, and the translator was a very straight Englishman. What in America they would call a square, not hip at all. To understand Rubaiyat you need a little bit of hip in you. The Rubaiyat talks of wine and women and nothing else. It sings of wine and women. The translators, and there are many, are all wrong. They are bound to be wrong because Omar Khayyam was a Sufi, a man of tasawwuf, a man who knows. When he talks of the woman he is talking about God. That is the way Sufis address God. beloved, oh my beloved, and they always use the feminine for God. This should be noted. Nobody else in the world, in the whole history of humanity and consciousness, has addressed God as a woman. Only Sufis address God as the beloved. And the wine is that which happens between the lover and the beloved. It has nothing to do with grapes. The alchemy which happens between the lover and the beloved, between the disciple and the master, between the seeker and the sought, between the worshipper and his God. The alchemy, the transmutation, that is the wine. Rubaiyat is so misunderstood. Perhaps that is why I forgot it. Books I have loved. 7. Osho. Chapter 2. 7th. Masnavi of Jalal in Rumi. It is a book of small parables. The great can only be expressed in parables. Jesus speaks in parables. So speaks the Masnavi. Why did I forget it? I love parables. I should not have forgotten it. I have used hundreds of parables from it. Perhaps it has become so much of my own that I forgot to mention it separately. But that is no excuse. Apology is still required. 8. The 8 is the Isaiah Upanishad. It is easy to understand why I forgot about it. I have drunk it. It has become a part of my blood and bones. It is me. I have spoken on it hundreds of times. It is a very small Upanishad. There are 108 Upanishads and Isaiah is the smallest of them all. It can be printed on a postcard, on one side only, but it contains all the remaining 107, so they need not be mentioned. The seed is in the Isaiah. The word Isaiah means divine. You may be surprised that in India we don't call Christ Christ. We call him Isaiah, Isaiah, which is far closer to the original Aramaic Yeshua, in English Joshua. His parents must have called him Yeshu. Yeshu is too long. The name traveled to India and from Yeshu became Isu. India immediately recognized that Isu is so close to Isaiah, which means God, that it would be better to call him Isaiah. The Isaiah Upanishad is one of the greatest creations of those who have meditated. 9th. I forgot to say something about Gurdjieff and his book All and Everything, perhaps because it is a very strange book, not even readable. I don't think there are any living individuals except me who have read from the first page to the last. I have come across many Gurdjieff followers, but none of them had been able to read All and Everything in its totality. It is a big book, just the opposite of the Isaiah Upanishad, 1,000 pages. And Gurdjieff is such a rascal saint. Please allow me this expression, rascal saint. He writes in such a way that it becomes impossible to read. One sentence may go running on 4 pages. By the time you come to the end of the sentence you have forgotten its beginning. And he uses words he made up himself, just like me. Strange words. For example, when he was writing about Kundalini, he called it Kundabuffer. That was his word for Kundalini. This book is of immense value, but the diamonds are hidden among ordinary stones. One has to seek and search. I have read this book not once but many times. The more I went into it, the more I loved it. because the more I could see the rascal, the more I could see what it was that he was hiding from those who should not know. Knowledge is not for those who are not yet capable of absorbing it. Knowledge has to be hidden from the unwary, and is only for those who can't digest it. It has to be given only to those who are ready. That's the whole purpose of writing in such a strange way. There is no other book stranger than Girly J.'s All and Everything, and it certainly is all and everything. 10th. I remembered this book but did not mention it because it was written by P.D. Uspensky, the disciple of Girly J. who betrayed him. I did not want to include it because of this betrayal, but the book was written before he betrayed his master, so finally I decided to include it. The name of the book is In Search of the Miraculous. It is tremendously beautiful, more so because it was written by a man who was only a disciple, who himself had not known. Not only was he a disciple but later on a Judas, the man who betrayed Girly J. It is strange, but the world is full of strange things. Books I have loved. TAO Show. Chapter 2. Uspensky's book represents Girly J. far more clearly than Girly J.'s own. Perhaps in a certain state of being, Girly J. had taken possession of Uspensky and used him as a medium, just as I am using Dvigi as my medium. Right now he is writing the notes, and with my half-closed eyes I am watching everything. I can watch even with closed eyes. I am just the watcher on the hills. I have no other work left but to watch. 11th. This is a book written by an unenlightened man, neither master nor disciple. Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. But something has penetrated, come through the poet in him. The poet has functioned as a bamboo flute, and the notes are not of the flute itself. They don't belong to the bamboo. Walt Whitman is just an American bamboo. But Leaves of Grass is immensely beautiful. Something overflowing from God has been caught by this poet. No American, as far as I know, except Walt Whitman, may have touched it. That too, partially. Otherwise no American has been so wise. Don't interrupt. At least once in a while write your notes. Later you will repent that you missed this, you missed that. Just write your notes. When the time is ripe I will say stop. Is my time over? My time was over long ago. Not today, more than 25 years ago. I am living a posthumous life, just a PS to a letter. But sometimes the PS is more important than the whole letter itself. What a wonderful world! Even at these heights one can hear a giggle in the valley. In a way it is good. It joins them together. Alas, it will soon be over. Can we not make it last forever? At least for now. Don't betray me. Man is the only coward. Can't disciples avoid being Judases? When it is over you can stop. So good. Hallelujah. Books I have loved. 9. Shows. Chapter 3. 1984 in Lao-Tzu House, Rajneeshpuram, Oregon, USA. Now my work begins. What a joke! The joke of all jokes is that Sosin, the Chinese sage, was knocking at the door of my consciousness. These mystics are too much. You can never know at what moment they will start knocking at your doors. You are making love to your girlfriend, and Sosen comes and starts knocking. They come all the time, anytime. They do not believe in any etiquette. And what was he saying to me? He was saying, "Why haven't you included my book?" My God! That is true. I have not included his book in my list for the simple reason that his book contains all that is. If I include his book, then nothing else is needed. Then no other book is needed. Sosen is enough unto himself. His book is called Hsinhsin. Hsin has to be written not like the English sin but Hsin. Now you know the Chinese. What a way to commit a sin. Sin. Hsinhsin. Okay, Sosen, I include your book too. That becomes my first book today. I am sorry. It should have been the first from the very beginning, but I have already talked about 20 others. It doesn't matter. Hsinhsin, whether I said it or not, is the foremost, the first. Write the first, Divigi, in capital letters. Hsinhsin is such a small book that if Sosen had known that one day, after him, Gurdjieff would write a book called All and Everything, he would have laughed, because that title belongs to his own book. And Gurdjieff had to write 1,000 pages, yet the few words of Sosen are far more penetrating, far more significant. They go directly to your heart. I can even hear the noise, not of those words going to your heart, but some mouse, some devil, doing his work. Let him do his work. 10. Chapter 3. Sosen's book is so small, just like Isaiah Upanishad, and far more significant. When I say that my heart breaks, because I would like Isaiah to be the ultimate book, but what can I do? Sosen has defeated it. Tears come to my eyes because Isaiah is defeated, and also because Sosen is victorious. The book is so small, you can write it on your palm, but if you try, please remember the left hand. Don't write it on the right hand, that will be sacrilege. They say, right is right, and left is wrong. I say left is right, and right is wrong, because the left represents all that is beautiful in you, and Sosen can enter only through the left. I know because I have entered thousands of hearts through the left hand, through the left side, through their feminine, their yin, I mean the Chinese yin. I have never been able to enter anybody through his yang. The very word is enough to prevent anybody. Yang. It seems to say keep away. It says stop. Do not enter here. Keep off. Beware of the dog. The right is like that. The right belongs to the wrong side of your consciousness. It is useful, but only as a servant. It should never be the master. So if you write Sosen's Hsinhsin, write it on your left palm. It is such a beautiful book, each word is golden. I cannot conceive of a single word that could be deleted. It is exactly that which is needed, required, to say the truth. Sosen must have been a tremendously logical man, at least while he was writing his Hsinhsin. I have spoken about it and I have never loved speaking more. The greatest moments of my speaking were when I was speaking on Sosin. Speaking and silence together. Speaking yet not speaking, because Sosin can be explained only through no speaking. He was not a man of words, he was a man of silence. He spoke just the minimum. Forgive me, Sosin, I forgot you. Just because of you I remember a few more who can't knock at my door and disturb my afternoon sleep, so it is better that I should mention them. First is Sosin's HSINHSINming. Second is P.D. Uspensky's Tertium Organum. It is a miracle that he wrote it before he had even heard of Gurdjieff. He wrote it before he knew what he was writing. He understood it himself only afterwards, on meeting Gurdjieff. His first words to George Gurdjieff were, "Looking into your eyes I have understood Tertium Organum. Although I have written it, now I can say that it has been written through me by some unknown agency I was not aware of. Perhaps it was the rascal Gurdjieff who wrote it through him. Or maybe somebody else whom the Sufis call the ultimate rascal, who has been doing miracles. Miracles like Tertium Organum." The title means the third canon of thought. The Sufis give that ultimate agency a name. It is not a person but only a presence. I can't feel that presence right now, here, this very moment. They call it a certain name, because everything has to be given a name, but I will not say it. Not in the presence of this beauty, this splendor, of this exuberance, of this exaltation, of this ecstasy. I said it is a miracle that Uspensky could write Tertium Organum, one of the greatest books in any language of the world. In fact it is said, and rightly so, remember, I emphasize and repeat, rightly so, that there are only three great books. The first is Organum written by Aristotle, the second is the second Organum written by Bacon, and the third, by P.D. Uspensky, Tertium Organum. Tertium means third, and Uspensky has, very mischievously, and only the saint can books I have loved 11 show. Chapter 3. Be so mischievous, introduced the book by saying, without any ego, simply and humbly, that the first exists but not before the third. The third existed even before the first came into existence. Uspensky seems to have been spent, totally and utterly spent, into Tertium Organum, because he never could reach to the same height again. Even reporting Gurdjieff in search of the miraculous, he has not attained to the same height. When he betrayed Gurdjieff he tried finally to create something better than tertium. As his last effort he wrote the fourth way but failed utterly. The book is good for any university curriculum. You can see I have my own ways of condemning the thing. The fourth way can be part of a regular curriculum in a university course, but more than that it is nothing. Although he was trying to do his best, it is the worst book that Uspensky has written. It was his last book. That is the difficulty with all that is great. If you try, you miss. It comes effortlessly or not at all. It has visited him in Tertium Organum and he was not even aware of it. The words in Tertium are so powerful one cannot believe that the author is unenlightened, that he is still looking for a master, that he is still searching for the truth. I was a poor student, working the whole day as a journalist. That is the worst job you can do, but that's what was available to me at the time. And I was in such need that I had to join a night college. So the whole day I worked as a journalist, and at night I went to college. In a way, my name belongs to the night. Rajneesh means the moon. Rajni means the night. Ish means God. God of the night. So people used to laugh and say, "This is strange. You work the whole day, and go to study at night. Are you trying to fulfill your name?" Now I can answer them. Yes. Write it in capital letters. Yes. I have been trying to fulfill it my whole life. What else can be more beautiful than to be the full moon? So as a poor student in those days, I used to work the whole day. But I am a crazy man. Rich or poor does not matter. I have never liked to read books borrowed from others. In fact, I hate even borrowing from a library, because a library book is like the prostitute. I hate to see the marks, the underlining of other people. I always love the snow-white freshness. Tertium Organum was a costly book. In India, in those days, I was getting a salary of only 70 rupees each month, and by coincidence the book cost exactly 70 rupees, but I purchased it. The bookseller was amazed. He said, "Even the richest man in our community cannot afford it. For 5 years I have been keeping it to sell, and nobody has purchased it. People come and look at it, then drop the idea of buying. How can you, the poor student, working the whole day and studying at night, working almost 24 hours each day, how can you afford it?" I said, "This book I can't purchase even if I have to pay for it with my life. Just reading the first line is enough. I have to have it whatsoever the cost." That first sentence I had read in the introduction was, "This is the third canon of thought, and there are only three. The first is that of Aristotle, the second of Bacon, and the third, my own." I was thrilled. Books I have loved 12 Osho. Chapter 3. By Ouspensky sparing that he said, "The third existed even before the first." That was the sentence that caught fire in my heart. I gave the bookseller my whole month's salary. You cannot understand, because for that whole month I had to almost starve. But it was worth it. I can't remember that beautiful month. No food, no clothes, not even shelter, because I could not pay the rent. I was thrown out of my small room. But I was happy with Tertium Organum under the sky. I read that book under a street lamp. It is a confession, and I have lived that book. That book is so beautiful, and more so now that I know that the man did not know at all. How could he have managed it then? It must have been a conspiracy of the gods, something from the beyond. I cannot resist any more from using the name the Sufis use. They call it Kaitar. Kaitar is the agency that guides those who need guidance. Tertium Organum is the second book. Third, Geedgovind, the Song of God. This book was written by a poet very much condemned by Indians, because in Geedgovind, his Song of God, he talks too much of love. Indians are so against love that they have never appreciated this great work. It is something which should be sung. Nothing can be said about it. It is a ball song, the song of a madman. If you dance and sing it, you will understand it. There is no other way. I am not mentioning the name of the man who wrote it. That is not important. XYZ. Not that I don't know his name, but I will not mention it for the simple reason that he does not belong to the world of the Buddhas. Yet he has done a great service. Fourth, now be patient, because I have to complete the list to 10. I cannot count more than that. Why 10? Because I have 10 fingers. That's how the number 10 came into existence. 10 fingers. Man started counting on his fingers, so 10 became the basic number. Fourth, Kunda's essay the Mayasar. I have never spoken about it. I decided to many times but always dropped the idea. This is one of the greatest books the Jainas have produced, but it is very mathematical. That's why I have always dropped it. I love poetry. If it was poetic I would have spoken on it. I have even spoken on unenlightened poets, but not on even enlightened mathematicians and logicians. Mathematics is so dry. Logic is a desert. Perhaps he is around here among my son-Ibsens. But he cannot be. Kunda was an enlightened master. He cannot be born again. His book is beautiful. I can only say that much. I will not say anything more because it is mathematical. Mathematics too has its beauty, its rhythm. That's why I appreciate it. It has its own truth, but it is very limited, and very right-handed. The Mayasar means the essence. If by chance you ever come across Kunda's essay the Mayasar, then please never hold it in your left hand. Keep it in the right hand. It is a right-hand book, right in every way. That is why I have declined up till now to speak about it. It is so right that I feel a little aversion to it, of course with tears in my eyes, because I know the beauty of the man who wrote it. I love Kunda, and I hate from my guts his mathematical expression. Gudia, you can have a little more freedom because I have to talk about 4 books more. If you want you can go out again. Books I have loved 13 Osho. Chapter 3. 5th. J. Krishnamurti's The First and Last Freedom. I love this man, and I hate this man. I love him because he speaks the truth, but I hate him for his intellectuality. He is only reason, rationality. I wondered, he may be a reincarnation of that goddamned Greek Aristotle. His logic is what I hate, his love is what I respect, but his book is beautiful. This was his first book after his enlightenment, and the last 2. Although many other books have appeared they are only poor repetitions of the same. He has not been able to create anything better than The First and Last Freedom. It is a strange phenomenon. Khalil Gibran wrote his masterpiece The Prophet when he was only 18 years old, and struggled his whole life to create something better but could not. Ouspensky could not go beyond tertium organum even though he met Gurdjieff, lived and worked with him for many years. and such is the case with J. Krishnamurti. His book The First and Last Freedom is really the first and the last. Sixth. The sixth is a book by another Chinese, the Book of Huanqiu. It is a small book, not a treatise, just fragments. Truth cannot be expressed in a treatise. You cannot write a Ph.D. on it. The Ph.D. is a degree that should be given to the fools. Huanqiu writes in fragments. On the surface they seem to be unconnected, but they are not. You have to meditate and then you can find the connection. It is one of the most meditative books ever written. In English, the Book of Huanqiu is translated in the English way as The Teachings of Huanqiu. Even the title is wrong. People like Huanqiu don't teach. There is no teaching in it. You have to meditate, to be silent, to understand it. The seventh is the Book of Wei. Again in English it is translated as The Teachings of Wei. These poor Englishmen, they think there is nothing more in life than teaching. These Englishmen are all teachers. And be aware of English women, otherwise you will get caught with a school teacher. Wei Hai and Huanqiu are both masters. They impart. They don't teach. Hence I call it the Book of Wei, although you will not find it in the libraries. In the libraries you will find the teachings of Wei. 8. The last, at least for today, because one never knows about tomorrow. Other devils may start knocking at my doors. I must have read more than any man alive on the earth. And remember, I am not boasting but simply stating a fact. I must have read at least 100,000 books, possibly more, but not less than that, because after that I stopped counting. So I don't know about tomorrow, but for the 8th today, I am feeling a little guilty about GEVGOVIND because I haven't told you the name of the author. I will tell you, but first let me finish the 8th. The 8th book that has impressed me immensely is a strange one, obviously, otherwise it would not have impressed me at all. You will be shocked. Guess what the 8th book can be. I know you cannot guess it, not that it is in Sanskrit or Chinese, Japanese or Arabic. You have heard about it. You may even have it in your home. It is the Song of Solomon in the Old Testament. This is a book I love wholeheartedly. I hate all that is Jewish except the Song of Solomon. The Song of Solomon is very much misunderstood because of the so-called psychologists, particularly the Freudians, the frauds. They have been interpreting the Song of Solomon in books I have loved 14 shows. Chapter 3. The worst possible way. They make it a sexual song. It is not. It is sensual. That's true, very sensual, but not sexual. It is so alive. That's why it is sensual. It is so full of juice. That is why it is sensual, but not sexual. Sex may be a part of it, but don't misguide humanity. Even the Jews have become afraid of it. They think that it has been included in the Old Testament by accident. In fact, this song is the only thing worth preserving. All else is worth throwing into the fire. Is my hour over? So bad? You say yes, but what can I do? This is the very beauty, Thank you both. O Imani Padme Hum, how beautiful to stop at this beauty. Note, note, note. This no is what the Indians say when they attain to enlightenment. Then they don't want to be born again. They say no, no, no. After this beautiful experience, what is the point of continuing? Books I have loved. 15. Osho. Chapter 4. 1984 in Lao-Tzu House, Rajneeshpuram, Oregon, USA. Okay. Get ready for your notes. The world would have lost much without people like Devijit. We would not have known anything of Socrates if Plato had not written notes, nor of Buddha, nor Bodhidharma. Jesus too is known through his disciples' notes. Mahavira is said never to have uttered a single word. I know the meaning of why it is said. It is not that he did not utter a single word, but that he never communicated to the world directly. It was only through the notes of his disciples. There is not a single case known where an enlightened person has written anything himself. As you know, to meet an enlightened person is not the last thing. There is still a transcendental state which is neither enlightened nor not enlightened. Now, in that state of consciousness it is only through intimate communion. I am not using the word communication knowingly, but communion, a kind of merger, that the disciple becomes just the hand of the master. So get ready for your notes, because last time, although unwillingly, I was going to mention the name of the poet-singer of Geevind. Somehow though I managed not to mention it. I pretended as if I had forgotten it, but it is heavy on me. The whole day I felt a little concerned about Jadava. That is the name of the poet-singer of Geevind. Why was I not willing to mention his name? For his own sake. He was not even close to enlightenment. I have mentioned Mikhail Naimi, the creator of the Book of Mirad. I have mentioned Khalil Gibran, and many others. Nietzsche, Dostoevsky, Walt Whitman. They are not enlightened, but very close, just on the verge. One push and they will be in the temple. They are standing just at the door, not daring enough to knock, and the door is not locked. They can push and it will open. It is already open. It just needs a push, just as they need a push. Hence I mention their names. 16. Chapter 4. But Jadava is not even close to the temple. It is a miracle how Geevind descended on him. But no one knows God's mysteries. And remember, there is no God. It is only an expression. Nobody knows the mysteries of existence, its abundance. Sometimes it pours on barren land. Sometimes it does not rain on fertile soil. It is simply so. Nothing can be done about it. Jadava is a barren land. Geevind. This tremendously beautiful poetry, the song of God, descended upon him. He must have sung it, composed it, not knowing what he was doing. I don't see him anywhere near the temple. That is why I was unwilling to mention his name. It may even make him more egoistic. That is why I said for his own sake. But I felt it is not the poor man's fault. Whatsoever he is, but he has given birth to a beautiful child, and if I have mentioned the child then let me mention the father's name, otherwise people will think the child is a bastard. The father may have been, but the child is not. I feel a great relief because I am finished with Jadava forever. But there is a queue standing at the door. You don't know what a fix I am in. I had not thought of it before, because I am not a thinker and I never think before I jump. I jump, and then I think. It was just by the way that I mentioned 10 beautiful books. I was not thinking so many others would start bugging me. So, 10 more. First, the fragments of Heraclitus. I love this man. Let me mention it, just by the way, as a note in the margin, that I love all, but I don't like all. I like a few and I don't like a few, but I love all. About that there is no question. I love Jadava as much as I love Heraclitus, but Heraclitus I like too. There are very few whom I can't put in the same category as Heraclitus. In fact, even to say that is not true, there is no one. Now I am saying what I really wanted to say always. There is no one, I repeat, who can be put in the same category as Heraclitus. He is just far out, dangerously awakened, unafraid of the consequences of what he was saying. He says in these fragments, again the notes of a Devijit, the disciple. Heraclitus did not write. There must be something, some reason why these people do not write, but of that a little later. Heraclitus says in the fragments, you cannot step in the same river twice. And then he says, no, you cannot step in the same river even once. This is tremendously beautiful, and true too. Everything is changing, and changing so fast that there is no way to step in the same river twice. You can't even step in the same river once. The river is constantly flowing, going, going, going to the ocean, to the infinite, going to disappear into the unknown. This is the first on my list this evening, Heraclitus. Second, the golden verses of Pythagoras. He was one of the most misunderstood men, obviously. If you know you are bound to be misunderstood, that is certain. To understand is so dangerous, because then you will be misunderstood. Pythagoras was not understood even by his own disciples, not even by those who wrote down the golden verses. They wrote it mechanically, because not a single disciple of Pythagoras rose to his heights, not a single one became enlightened. And the Greeks have completely ignored him. They have ignored their best, Heraclitus, Socrates, Pythagoras, Plotinus. They had wanted to ignore Socrates too, but he was too much. So they had to poison him. They could not just ignore him. Books I have loved. 17. So shows. Chapter 4. But Pythagoras is completely ignored, and he is the same key as Gautam Buddha, Jesus, or any other enlightened one. One thing more, neither Jesus nor Buddha nor Lao Tzu made so much effort to find the key as Pythagoras. He worked the most. Pythagoras was the most authentic seeker. He risked all and everything. He traveled all around the world that was known in those days, studied under all kinds of masters, entered into all kinds of mystery schools and fulfilled their conditions. He is a category in himself. Third, a man who is not known much, not even by his own countrymen. His name is Saraha, and the book is called The Song of Saraha. That is its Tibetan title. Nobody knows who wrote it down. One thing is certain, Saraha never did. He just sang it. But it has the fragrance that the man knew, that he had attained. The song is not the composition of a poet but a realization of a mystic. It is just a few lines, but of such grandeur and beauty that the stars can feel ashamed. The Song of Saraha is untranslated. I heard it from a Tibetan Lama. I would have liked to have heard it again and again, but the Lama stank so much that I had to say thank you. Lamas sting because they never take a bath. The Lamas stink, and I am allergic to smells, was even too much for me to hear the whole song. I was worried that I was going to have an asthma attack. I have spoken much about Saraha. He is the original source of the school of Tantra. Fourth, Tilipa, and the few notes from his song left behind by his disciples. I wondered, without these disciples, how much we would have missed. These people who were just writing down whatsoever was said by the master, not thinking whether it was right or wrong, just trying to put it into words as correctly as possible. And it is a difficult task. The master is a madman. He can say anything, he can sing anything, or he may remain silent. He may just make a few gestures with his hand, and those gestures have to be understood. That was what Meher Baba did continuously for 30 years. He remained silent, only making gestures with his hands. Is my numbering incorrect? Divigit. No, so shows. So good. It feels so good to be correct sometimes. With numbers I am really good. It is a strange coincidence that I asked at the right moment. I always get mixed up with numbers. I cannot count, for the simple reason that I am facing the immeasurable, the unaccountable. The truth that I am facing is neither in words, nor in numbers. The truth transcends all, and it is so wondrous that one gets mixed up. Everything goes upside down, bizarre. So this is a great compliment that you said I was right. But now please tell me, what was the number? Number 5, so shows. Thank you. Fifth, the man I am going to mention is not recognized as enlightened because there was nobody to recognize him. Only an enlightened person can recognize another. This man's name is D.T. Suzuki. This man has done more than anybody else in the modern world to make meditation and Zen available. Suzuki worked for his whole life to introduce to the West the innermost core of Zen. Books I have loved 18 Osho. Chapter 4. Zen is only the Japanese pronunciation of the Sanskrit word dhyana, meditation. Buddha never used Sanskrit. He hated it, for the simple reason that it had become the language of the priests, and the priest is always in the service of the devil. Buddha used a very simple language, that used by his people in the valley of Nepal. The name of his language is Pali. In Pali, dhyana is pronounced jna. Simple, illiterate, ordinary people cannot appreciate the subtleties of any language. They make it according to themselves. It is like a stone rolling down the river, it becomes round. That's how every word used by the people starts having a beautiful roundness, a particular simplicity. Dhyana is difficult for the ordinary people to pronounce. They pronounce it jna. When it reached China, from jna it became chant, and when it traveled to Japan it became Zen. You can see, it happens everywhere. People always make words simple. D.T. Suzuki's book Zen and Japanese Culture is my fifth. This man has done so much service for humanity that no one can transcend him. His work is immense. The whole world is indebted to him and it will always remain so. Suzuki should be a household word. It is not. I am saying that it should be. Very few people are aware, and those who are aware, it is their responsibility to spread their awareness far and wide. 6th. I am going to introduce a Frenchman to you. You will be surprised. Inside you are asking yourself, the Frenchman, and being listed bio show along with Pythagoras, Heraclitus, Suzuki. Has he really gone mad? Yes. I have never been sane, not for these last 25 years, or a little more. Before that I too was sane, but thank God. Again remember, it is just an expression, because there is no God, only godliness. I don't forget to mention it because there is every possibility that even my followers, my disciples, will start worshipping God, or me as a god. There is no God. There never was. Nietzsche is wrong when he says, God is dead. Not because God is not dead, but because he was never alive. So how can he be dead? To be dead one has to first fulfill the condition of being alive. That is where Sartre is wrong. He agrees with Nietzsche. I say thank God. I used the word because there is no other word to use in its place. But it is only a word, contentless. Thank God simply means it is good, that it is beautiful. I am feeling so tremendously joyous that, Daviji, you will have to remind me again what was the sixth book I was talking about. The Frenchman, those shows. Right? I have not mentioned the name yet. The book is Hubert was let go. It should be on the bookshelf of every meditator. Nobody has written so scientifically and yet so poetically. It is a contradiction, but he has managed it. Hubert was let go is the best that has come out of the modern Western world. It is the best book of the century as far as the West is concerned. I am not counting the East. The 7th, Ramakrishna, his parables. You know I don't like saints very much. That does not mean that I like them a little bit. I don't like them at all. In fact, to be true, I hate them. Saints are phony, hocus pocus, the stuff bullshit is made of. But Ramakrishna does not belong to them. Again, thank God. At least there are a few people who are saintly and yet are not saints. Books I have loved 19 Those shows. Chapter 4. Ramakrishna's parables are very simple. Parables are bound to be simple. remember the parables of Jesus. Just like that. If a parable is difficult, then it is no longer useful. The parable is only needed so that it can be understood by all ages of children. Yes, I mean all ages of children. There are children who are 10 years of age, and there are children of 80 years of age, and so on. But they are all children playing on the seashore, collecting seashells. Ramakrishna's Parables is my 7th book. 8. The Fables of Aesop. Now Aesop is not really a historical person. He never existed. Buddha has used all those parables in his sermons. With Alexander coming to India, those parables were brought to the West. Of course many things changed, even the name of Buddha. Buddha was called the Bodhisattva. Buddha has said there are 2 kinds of Buddhas. One is the Arhat, one who attains his Buddhahood and then does not care about anybody else, and the Bodhisattva, who attains Buddhahood and then tries his hardest to help others on the path. Bodhisattva was the word carried by Alexander as Bodhisat, which then became Josephus. Then from Josephus it became Aesop. Aesop is not a historical person, but the parables are tremendously significant. That's my 8th book today. 9th. Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyam Rika. I don't like Nagarjuna very much. He is too much of a philosopher, and I am anti-philosophic. But his Mula Madhyam Rika, his Karitas for short. Mula Madhyam Rika means the essence of the path of the middle, the essential middle path. In his Karitas he has reached the profoundest depths of which words are capable. I have never spoken on it. If you want to speak on the essential, the best way is not to speak at all, just to be silent. But the book is tremendously beautiful. 10th. My last for this evening is a strange book. Ordinarily nobody would think I would include it at all. It is the great work of Marpa, the Tibetan mystic. Even his followers don't read it. It is not meant to be read. It is a puzzle. You have to meditate over it. You have just to look at it and then suddenly the book disappears. Its contents disappear, and only the consciousness remains. Martha was a very strange man. His master Milarepa used to say, "Even I bow down to Martha." No master has ever said that, but Martha was such. Somebody once said to Martha, "Do you believe in Milarepa? If so, then jump into this fire." Immediately he jumped. People ran from all sides to extinguish the fire, knowing that Martha had jumped into it. When the fire was put out, they found him sitting there in the Buddha posture, laughing hilariously. They asked Martha, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "I am laughing because trust is the only thing that fire cannot destroy." This is the man whose simple songs I count as the 10th, the book of Marpa. Is my hour over? I can't hear you saying yes, though I know my hour has not even come yet. How can it be over? I have come before my time, that's why I am misunderstood. But as far as you are concerned, you are right. My hour is over. And this is really beautiful. There is no expression for it. It is so beautiful. It is better to end it now. Books I have loved 20 Osho. Chapter 5, 1984 in Lao-Tzu House, Rajneeshpuram, Oregon, USA. Now the work begins. Hatha Brahman Jigyasa. Now the inquiry into the ultimate. That's how Buddha begins his great book, perhaps the greatest. Buddha's book is the first I am going to talk about today. He begins his great book Brahman Sutras with this sentence. Now the inquiry into the ultimate. That's how all the sutras in the East begin, always with now ... apto, never otherwise. Buddha is one of those who are bound to be misunderstood, for the simple reason that he is too serious. A mystic should not be so serious. That's not a good quality. But he was a Brahmin living thousands of years ago, living among Brahmins, talking to Brahmins, and Brahmins are the most serious people in the world. Do you know India has no jokes? Is it not strange for such a big country to be without jokes? Such a long history without jokes. The Brahmins cannot joke because the joke seems too profane, and they are sacred people. I can understand and forgive Buddha, but I could not forget to mention that he is a little bit too serious. I was hesitating whether to include him in my list of books. The hesitation was only because of his seriousness. I did not hesitate about Fyodor. I did not hesitate at all about even Rubaiyat, Biomerkium. But I hesitated about Buddha and his Brahman Sutras, which in the East is considered to be one of the greatest books, and it certainly is. I have read many serious books, even that rascal St. George Gurley J.T. Saul and everything, but there is nothing to compete with Buddha's Brahman Sutras as far as seriousness is concerned. He is ultimate in his seriousness too. Alas, could he only have laughed a little? Christians believe that Jesus never laughed. I refute it. I refute it absolutely. It is possible about Buddha, he may never have laughed. He is so serious, utterly serious. You could not create a more serious book. Thousands of commentaries have been written on it to explain what he means. 21. Chapter 5. Truth needs no commentary, but when you put it in a serious guard, naturally commentators follow, and commentators always serve the devil. It is still a great book. In spite of Buddha's seriousness, it is great. Buddha reaches to the highest, to the ultimate, with great acumen, with great efficiency, the efficiency of a scientist. In India the person is called an acharya, the master, only if he has written a commentary on three things. First, the 108 Upanishads. Second, Shrimadbhagavata, Krishna's celestial songs. Third, the most important of all, Buddha's Brahman Sutras. I have never spoken about him. I was called a Acharya for many years, and people used to ask me if I had written all the commentaries, the Gita, the Upanishads and the Brahman Sutras. I laughed and said, I only tell jokes. I don't write any commentaries whatsoever. My being called an Acharya is a joke. Don't take it seriously. Brahman Sutra. Brahman is known and understood as God, but it is not so. Brahman has nothing to do with the Christian idea of God creating the world for thousands and for years before Jesus Christ. When I say it, I think that if Rajneeshpuram had heard, perhaps even he might have laughed. He may have lost his seriousness. Brahman does not mean God. Brahman means godliness, the divineness that pervades the whole existence. The whole, the holiness of the whole. Sutra simply means a tract. You cannot speak much about Brahman. Whatsoever you may say about it is only a tract, a hint. But a hint can become a bridge. A tract can become a bridge. And Rajneeshpuram has made a bridge within his sutras. I love the book in spite of Rajneeshpuram's seriousness. I hate seriousness so much that I have to say in spite of Rajneeshpuram's seriousness. I still love him for creating one of the most significant books in the world. The Bibles are very far away from Rajneeshpuram's sutras. They don't even come close to it. Second, Narada's Bhakti Sutras. Narada is just the opposite of Rajneeshpuram, and I love to put opposites together. I would like to put Narada and Rajneeshpuram into the same room and enjoy whatsoever happens between them. Narada always carried an ektora, the musical instrument with only one string. Ek means one, and tara means string. Narada always carried his ektora, playing on it, singing and dancing. But Rajneeshpuram would not have tolerated it at all. I can't tolerate all kinds of people. But Rajneeshpuram would have shouted and screamed at Narada. Narada was not the kind of person who would have listened to Rajneeshpuram. He would have continued to play, singing even more loudly to irritate Rajneeshpuram. I would have enjoyed seeing them both together in the same room. That's why the second book I choose is Narada's Bhakti Sutras. His sutras begin with Athato Bhakti Jigyasa, now the inquiry into love. To inquire into love is the greatest exploration, the greatest inquiry. Everything else falls short, even atomic energy. You can be a scientist even of the caliber of Albert Einstein, but you don't know what real inquiry is unless you love. And not only love, but love plus awareness. Then it becomes inquiry into love, the most difficult task in the world. Let me repeat. It is the most difficult task in the world. Love with awareness. People fall in love. People become unconscious in love. Their love is only biological. It is gravitation. They are pulled down towards the earth. But Narada is talking about a totally different love. Love is meditation.